20 years of US military presence in Afghanistan hasn't weakened the Taliban. If anything, they have grown richer and returned more powerful, it seems. Who are the Talibans? The Taliban emerged in early 1990s following the withdrawal of Soviet troops from Afghanistan. From southwestern Afghanistan, the Taliban quickly extended their influence. In September 1995, they captured the province of Herat, bordering Iran. And exactly 1 year later, they captured the Afghan capital, Kabul, overthrowing the regime of President Burhanuddin Rabbani. By 1998, the Taliban were in control of almost 90% of Afghanistan. Afghans welcomed the Taliban when they first appeared on the scene. Their early popularity was largely due to their success in stomping out corruption and making areas under their control safe for commerce to flourish. They received immense support from Pakistan in military planning and from Saudi Arabia in funding. The rise of the Taliban was a win-win situation for Pakistan, as they didn't have to go back to the old Afghan demand for resolving the Pashtunistan problem. This also ensured a smooth expansion of Taliban in Afghanistan. Their rule in Afghanistan was regressive and disapproved by most of the world. They introduced punishments in line with their strict interpretation of Sharia law, such as public executions of convicted murderers and amputations for those found guilty of theft. Men were required to grow beards, and women had to wear the all-covering burqa. The Taliban also banned television, music, and cinema, and disapproved of girls overgoing to school. They were accused of various human rights and cultural abuses. One notorious example was in 2001 when the Taliban went ahead with the destruction of the famous Bamiyan Buddha statues in central Afghanistan. Pakistan has repeatedly denied that it was the architect of the Taliban enterprise. But there is little doubt that many Afghans who initially joined the movement were educated in madrasas in Pakistan. Pakistan was also one of the only 3 countries, along with Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, which recognized the Taliban when they were in power in Afghanistan. It was also the last country to break diplomatic ties with the group. Taliban fostered Islamic terror groups, including Al-Qaeda and anti-India terror outfits operating from Pakistan. One of them had hijacked an Indian passenger plane in 1999 and flown it to Kandahar, with Taliban security demanding the release of terrorists locked up in Indian jails. The attention of the world was drawn to the Taliban in Afghanistan in the wake of 9/11 terror attacks in the US, killing about 3,000 people. The Taliban were accused of providing shelter for the prime suspects Osama bin Laden and his Al-Qaeda movement. The Taliban rejected the US demand to hand over Osama bin Laden. UN sanctions increased on the Taliban between 1999 and 2001 for harboring and training terrorists. Even Islamic countries like Iran opposed the Taliban over its treatment of Shia Muslims. The Taliban sustained its economy from narcotics, smuggling, and terror funding. The US landed in Afghanistan in October. By mid-December 2001, the Taliban were fleeing from their strongholds, including Kandahar, and an interim government formed by the anti-Taliban groups that had met in Germany took over power in Afghanistan. 10 years after the US forces landed in Afghanistan, Osama bin Laden was found and killed in a night raid by special commandos. The catch was Osama was not in Afghanistan. He was in Pakistan's garrison town of Abbottabad in 2011. The Taliban never gave up its fight against the US-led forces. After its defeat at the hands of American forces, the Taliban resorted to guerrilla warfare. It would strategically target installations, public places or officials, and military bases from 2001 onward. It has succeeded in its strategy and evidently survived possibly the biggest counterinsurgency operations for 20 years. Around 150,000 British military personnel have served in Afghanistan over the past 20 years, and 457 have been killed. Also, 2,448 American service members have died in the conflict. By the end of 2018, the US was firmly committed to completing a pullout, putting the Afghan government under pressure of resurging Taliban. A deal was signed between the US and Taliban in February 2020, following several rounds of negotiations in Qatar. The US and the NATO were to withdraw troops from Afghanistan. The Taliban were able to raise funds through several sources, including drugs and opium trade. In areas they control, they have taxed farms and other businesses, while the group has also received funding from supporters. Their annual earning is estimated to be $1.5 billion. The group is now thought to be stronger in numbers than at any point since 2001, with up to 85,000 full-time fighters. Taliban recaptured Kabul soon after the withdrawal of American troops. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani fled the country. The Taliban fighters have now occupied the presidential palace. The Taliban's swift success has prompted questions over how the insurgent group was able to gain control so soon after the US withdrawal from Afghanistan.